Hello there. In this video I will be testing my latest attempt at recreating Iroquoian armor. This example is identical to the fifth, except that I have beveled the edges so that the slats fit together. The first tests will be conducted with a stone spear. This spear is made of slate, which is not ideal for a spear, but it was used. The spear glances off the edge. Here the spear struck the armor directly. The head of the spear was snapped into 3 pieces. The tip of the spear lodged in the armor. It did not penetrate. Having foreseen this occurrence, I made ready the second of the spears I had prepared. Again, the spear struck directly and the head was broken, the tip of which remained in the piece. The tips of these spearheads remained in the armor. The tangs remained in the spear shafts. This confirms to me that this armor is adequate against stone spears. I now move on to my steel spear. The spear struck the short edge of one of the pieces. It lodged in without splitting the piece. The armor prevented penetration. The spear glanced off the side of the armor. It penetrated one of the boards, but not in a way that would have struck my leg had I been wearing this. The spear glanced off the main of the armor and struck in one of the edges. It penetrated the board completely, but not in a way that would have injured me. Again, the spear struck the main of the armor and glanced off. Looking at my spear, I then found that the tip had been bent over. When the armor is struck at an angle, it's very hard on the weapons. What happens is that the angle of the weapon is changed, but not the angle of the force. This puts the force onto the sides of the weapon, which are necessarily the weakest. I fix my spear and return. Here the spear struck the armor dead center and split the main board. It penetrated the armor by about 1.5 inches, which would have left a nasty wound, but still better than it going all the way through my leg. Here the spear struck a board almost directly and again penetrated about 1.5 inches. Here the spear glanced along the armor and slid in one of the gaps left by a previous thrust. Here the spear struck a gap and slid through the armor. It would have just caught the corner of my calf. Another glance. Look at the way the spear flexes here. Neat. The spear failed to penetrate here. The spear glanced off, struck a gap, and penetrated about 1/4 inch. I wouldn't have been injured. The spear struck a gap and penetrated very deeply. The spear struck a corner of the armor and penetrated. I don't think it would have hit my leg, but it might have. I swear, someone must have put a magnet in my log. Here the spear struck a gap and penetrated very deeply. Beveling the edges of these pieces increased the effectiveness of this armor by a wonderful degree. This confirms one of my suspicions that the gapping problem is caused by glancing rather than bad luck.